This meeting to order. Welcome to the August 6, 2024 Governing Board regular meeting. We'll all rise and we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Our first item is item 4 for approval of the agenda. There is one change that we need to make on that, and that's to item 8B1. The numbers for early kindergarten have changed, and it's the sentence under relevant information. If you move down just below page number 5, the indicator there, it should read, after completing kindergarten screening, 8 children demonstrate academic language and motor skill readiness and are recommended for kindergarten, and 3 were not accepted. Okay, so the change is from 7 to 8 and 4 to 3. Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda with that one change to 8B1.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Item 5, approval of minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from the regular study and voting session meeting of July 9th, 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Carr is abstained, not present, correct?
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Item 6, presentations. Item 6A, new teacher orientation debrief and professional development plan for 2024-25 school year. Kelsey.
Good evening. It has been a busy month. I know July seems like it's summer, but we are working away. It is a very busy month for our team of coaches, for everybody getting ready for the start of school. So I'm happy to share a little bit about our week-long new teacher orientation process that we just wrapped up about 2 weeks ago. So here we have all of our new certified staff to PUSD. There were 43 new staff altogether. 32 of those were classroom teachers, 1 new instructional coach, 3 counselors, 2 social workers, 1 school nurse, and then 4 service providers. So that's an SLP, a PT, a school psychologist, and somebody who does adaptive PE. I will tell you, this was one of the most incredible groups that we have worked with. They are ready, they are in this for the right reason, and they are going to do some amazing things. I'm excited to see how this year unfolds for them, but anybody who came in contact with them said what an incredible group this was. So we are very fortunate, thanks to Andy and our team of principals for doing an amazing job during that hiring process this last year. So our new staff was busy. Each morning we started with some sort of meeting, some sort of training with them, and really tried to give them the afternoons to work in their classroom so they had time to get things set up and ready. Started off on Monday morning kind of with a welcome, get to know PUSD, do a little bit of business, and then give them lunch, send them on their way. A lot of them did do orientation at their sites with instructional coaches and principals that afternoon. It's just a get to know you, welcome to our campus. They might have been there for an interview, but that's about it. Tuesday, we got to business. We really talked about instruction and as our instructional guides and curriculum and our philosophy around instruction and why we're partnering with Beyond Textbooks. So they got some exposure to that. That was just a quick intro into our standards-based instruction and into curriculum because we knew when all staff came back, they had a half-day training with Beyond Textbooks to get to know that, so we knew we were going to help support them further. And then they're not done. They're going to be working with the instructional guides and with curriculum with their school site teams throughout the remainder of the year and their instructional coaches. Wednesday and Thursday for our K-8 staff, they participated in 2 full days of Capturing Kids' Hearts training. What you'll see here in a minute is that was a highlight for a lot of our staff. That was the piece that they walked away saying that was the best part of our entire week. Our 9-12 staff, our high school staff, has not participated as a full staff in Capturing Kids' Hearts training. They have taken those philosophical pieces and the principles and they've implemented them at the high school level. So they did an introduction with high school staff on Thursday morning. And then Friday, we introduced them to Raptor, which is our safety app that we have, which was a good thing because last week, I think, 5 of our schools used that because of crazy lightning weather. So they had that and they were ready to use it. We also talked about, you've learned about capturing kids' hearts. Now, what does that look like in implementation at our school sites? How does that build in with our classroom management plans? How does that incorporate with all of our safety and discipline procedures within school sites? So principals came and joined us for that conversation, and they had a good time getting to talk about what does this process look like in our individual school sites. And then something that we did a little bit different this year is we talked about with all staff, what does special education look like in Prescott Unified, just so everybody has that knowledge and that foundation moving forward, so that we're making sure to service all of our students' needs the best that we can. So they were busy. They were tired by the end of Friday. They'd had a lot of information. They'd had some time to work in their sites, but they were definitely tired. They had a full week. We did do a survey at the end of our week with new staff, and here's some of the things that stood out. If you've never done a word cloud, this is what you take all of the feedback and it takes the most important words. We also synthesized that, but the biggest impact you will see it was for most of them, it was capturing kids' hearts. It is an incredible training. Again, I think I've told you before, I've done a lot of trainings in my day, and it is one of the best trainings, and I think I've done it 3 times total at this point. But they had a lot of positive feedback on that. They really appreciated kind of the presence that they got, how much support that they had from principals to coaches to other staff members. We had department chair leads come in from the high school. We had team teachers come in who wanted to collaborate with them early. So they had a really good welcoming. They felt that support. And they felt really confident, not just in kind of the direction of the district, but within our organization as a whole. There was quite a bit of comment around that. We also asked them, what more do you need? We know this is just a start. How else can we support you as we move throughout the year? And a lot of it was things that we knew was going to come. So familiarity with daily teaching tasks and routines, a lot around technology. How do we use those different pieces? And we do train on those pieces, but a lot of them you don't really get to know and understand until you're fully implementing and working with them with student data or student process in front of you. And then they wanted more time around special education process and with our curriculum. And we knew that all of those things are coming. We are supporting them with that throughout the year. Overall, really, really great feedback. I don't think we had any big bumps in the road other than a last-minute change moving from the high school to Mile High on Monday morning because of construction. But everybody handled that brilliantly. So it was a great week. Questions on new teacher orientation before we jump into Friday and PD?
Kelsey, if I could just piggyback,
Yes.
if that's all right, just super quick. When I was hired by the district, oh my gosh, 17 years ago, I guess it was, we had a new teacher orientation. It consisted of about 2 hours. We went to one of the auditoriums, and the superintendent said some things to us. They were probably great. I don't remember what they were. Talked to us for maybe 25, 30 minutes, and then we got on a school bus and drove around town. Here's where Taylor Hicks School is, here's where Abaya Judd School is, etc. And they gave us a high five and said, let us know if you need anything. That was it. We have come a long way since then.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, this isn't the end of the support these new teachers will receive to help them be successful in helping kids to be successful. So I really, really appreciate the great work that you and instructional coaches particularly did. But we had a lot of folks from HR to SPED staff, et cetera, everybody pitching in to make sure that things went really well for teachers, and they felt welcomed and well prepared.
Yeah.
Do you know any of the new teachers, are they all fully certified, or do we have any that are still working on their certification?
Well, Andy.
Yeah, I
Andy
can
knows.
answer that.
Yeah.
We have a few that are on an emergency certificate, and of course, we have a handful that are on an alternate certificate, meaning that they're in a program working to become fully certified, like our Keystone teachers.
Awesome. That's great news.
Yeah.
Out of 215 teachers total, Andy, we probably have fewer than maybe 10 or 12 on those alternate
Yeah, I think
certificates,
we would
correct?
have less than 10, I think, on alternate, and I think we're at 2 or 3 with an emergency certificate.
Great.
Which, that's substantially different than most districts in Arizona. We're pretty fortunate.
For certain. Thanks for holding that standard. Yeah, that's great.
And I think the thing to remember about our staff who do have those certificates is they're not just somebody off the street with no
Right.
experience. All of them have a bachelor's in some field or some area, and they're bringing lots of skills and experience to our district. So they're ready.
And I'll just note, we actually have a couple that are on that emergency certificate who they're gonna have their standard certificate real soon. Maybe they're moving in from out of state, and we just needed to get something to start, and then the process to get that reciprocal certificate takes a little bit longer, but yeah, they're pretty qualified.
Excellent news. Thanks. Any other questions, board? All right. Thanks, Kelsey.
So we talked about.
Did you, Linda? Did you have a question?
I was just going to ask, is the Keystone program a year-long program, or how long do they have to become certified?
It's a 2-year program.
2-year?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And we've got 6 people, don't we, Kelsey, in their second year of the Keystone program with us, and then is it 3 that are starting the first year? So we've got 2 cohorts going at the same time. We will going forward as well.
Okay, thanks.
So we talked about continued support. Here to talk a little bit about what that continued support looks like. So we do have a pretty robust Friday collaboration schedule. So break it down how that time works. Our schools get out at some different times. However, this is kind of our standard time frame that we have for our Friday afternoon collaboration. So Friday from 1:30 to 2:30, what you're going to see at school sites most of the time are full staff meetings. Sometimes that could be department or content meetings as well. Presentations. So for example, we have different organizations or people who come in. We have our EL staff who go out and do trainings. We also have additional mini PDs or trainings that happen during that 1:30 to 2:30 time. And then from 2:30 to 3:30, we have as a district dedicated that to team collaboration time. When I say team collaboration, that's either grade level, content, or subject area teams who are meeting together on a really consistent basis. And so you can see they have a lot of afternoon times. What we do find with a lot of these teams is they end up meeting either longer than 3:30, or they're meeting at other times throughout the week because they're finding that process so valuable. They really are gaining a lot from their teams. So that's what you see with kind of our core content areas. We also schedule time for elementary schools to get together as a district. You know, when we're talking about Granite Mile High and the high school, they have all of their grade level members in one building. But we're intentional about getting our elementary grade levels together across the district so that they can talk and plan and look at data together. So that happens at least once a quarter, if not twice a quarter in a lot of cases. With quarter one, they did meet for almost a full day before school started. So that was one of our days built in here as well. We also have what we call job-alike meetings. So we allow all of our elective teachers to get together, K-12, intervention, special education, and our student well-being teams. They're meeting together at least once a month in this dedicated 2 to 3 o'clock time. They have a special Friday for just them. And what do they do during this time? So a lot of what they're doing is focusing on these 4 essential questions from a professional learning community. And this is what we want their work to be around in those collaborative team meetings. We want them to be talking about, what do we want students to learn? What do they need to know? What do they need to be able to do? How are we going to know if they've learned it? So they're looking at assessment. They're looking at that end outcome and making sure that they're planning instruction to meet that. Then they're going to ask themselves, what are we going to do with kids who already have it? How are we going to take them to that next step? What are we going to do for enrichment? And then, oh, sorry, I flipped those. And then what are they going to do if they didn't learn it? How are we creating intervention opportunities for students? And this is really standards-driven and standards-based. This is when we're talking standards-based instruction. This is that process. We are making sure that we're clear on what students can do and that we have a plan for what they're going to do if they have it and what they're going to do if they don't have it. And why are we doing this? It's a term called collective efficacy that we talk about a lot. And there's a lot of research saying that in schools where you have collective efficacy, you see educators accept more responsibility. They're often extending more effort because they're seeing that payoff because they're working together as a team. They're more persistent. Sometimes it's not just like, I'm trying to figure out this problem by myself. They're doing that in collaboration with others. They're not responsible for it. It's the team that's responsible for that. And sometimes they're more resilient. If something doesn't work, they're all working towards that same goal and that same outcome. And it's not just something that we think is nice. John Hattie, if you've heard of him, is kind of a guru in educational research. And he has done a lot of research around what factors most influence student learning. And collective teacher efficacy, as you can see, has the highest effect size of anything else that you could look at. So there are a lot of things that really have positive outcomes on, student success. but collective teacher efficacy is the very, very highest. So that, again, is a reason why you see a lot of districts push for collaboration time. That's where you hear the word professional learning communities come out. It's because of research like this that says if you're working together as a team toward the same goal, you're going to be a lot more successful. And then last but not least, we have our district professional development days. So we have 3 full days and 2 half days built into here. And as you can see, we have those days already planned out for the year. So before school started, we had our BT 101 training for all staff. In August, we're going to build off of that by participating in their Enrich and Reteach. So that's that question of what are we going to do with kids who've got it? What are we going to do with kids who don't have it yet? So helping create some plans and process for that. October 31st is Halloween. We don't do a whole lot district-wide on that day. That is a site day where they're kind of doing some catch-up pieces and debriefing from the day. They need that most of the time. November 8th, we have our 3rd Beyond Textbooks training. They call that BT 101. Again, it's refining and building off of the processes that we've done before. February 14th will be our Choose Your Own. That is where we have different teachers from within our district. We have people from outside who put on workshops for teachers, and teachers get to select things that they're interested in or passionate about or want to learn more about. And we always have amazing feedback that day. We have a variety of presentations, and we're planning on that again. And then by May 5th, that's another half-day professional development day, and that day is all about kind of reflecting upon the year and setting things up so that they're ready for the following year. We're down to just a couple weeks left, so we do a lot of planning, getting things set for the next school year. So that is
Cool. But go ahead. I have a question too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, just quick, does Beyond Textbooks send staff for these opportunities?
They do.
Okay.
So this last training that we just had, we had 5 different sessions going at schools. They sent 5 different trainers up. Some of them are Beyond Textbooks staff, so they work just within that department. Some of them are current building principals. Some of them are current teachers at sites. So we get a variety of perspectives when they come. It's actually pretty great.
Okay.
Is it all from Vail, or
Yes.
it is?
Yeah, they're all from the Vail School District.
Okay, my question concerned Beyond Textbooks as well. I noticed we're only having the BT 102 training in November, I believe, November the 8th. Are we going to start our evaluations this year still using Galileo or
No.
Beyond Textbooks?
We are fully moving forward with Beyond Textbooks and Performance Matters.
What I needed
Yes.
to know.
So I actually, I think Clark said he saw some people taking some assessments already
Okay.
so
Second day of
far.
school.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's a
we have teachers
benchmark.
who are giving formative assessments starting officially this week, and then at the end of Q1, we'll do our first benchmark assessment. That's our summative.
So Galileo is officially buried.
It's officially gone.
Can we
And-
celebrate?
Sure.
Teachers are, yes.
One of
they
the
are.
key differences between Galileo before and Performance Matters that we're doing now, we've talked about this, but I think it's super important, rather than 3 times a year checking in and seeing, how did things go? What do we do? We're checking in literally every few days.
Yes.
But we're not taking entire class time or 2 class times like Galileo often did. We're taking, 10 minutes to see what do you know as we're going into this new unit, or now that we've covered that and you should have some knowledge around that. What have you learned? What do I need to do different as a teacher to make sure everybody hits that standard at the level that we want? And if not, back to, what do we do about that? The kids who do have it, how do we extend their learning? The kids who don't have it, how do we catch them up? So doing that much more frequently and in smaller chunks, we think is going to be more effective, help us a bunch.
Any other questions? All right, thanks again,
thank you.
Kelsey. All right, item 7, information only items. Summary of current events, Mr. Tenney?
Okay, just a handful of things, but they're all pretty important. First of all, of course, Kelsey just went over with us. Our new teacher orientation was spectacular. A lot of great folks, and we're super excited about that. This last week, was it last week? Everything's kind of, just last week, all of our staff reported, and we had convocation on Monday. Thank you all for being there. I know that's meaningful to people when they see a full board there supporting what they're doing. That's terrific. Appreciate that, and it's good to hear from a couple of you as well. at that meeting. And then that day and the next 2 days as well were pre-service. So for all of the staff, getting lesson plans ready, getting the room back in order, making sure we're hitting the ground running with kids. And started school on Thursday and Friday like we've done the last few years. We get such great feedback about that. There's a couple of parents who are like, why do you do that? But most of the parents and the kids and certainly the teachers that I talk to say, thank you. When we did 5 days in a row of coming off summer, by Thursday and Friday, we're just like, oh my gosh, these poor kids are worn out and the teachers are worn out, et cetera. 2 days of getting into the groove is great. And it wasn't 2 days of just, goofing around at all. Find out what that person's name is, color this pumpkin in, things like that. Like I say, I went around to virtually every classroom the first couple of days, and people were getting into it. The first couple of hours of the first day for sure, right? We're learning, this is Mrs. Robertson. But after that, they're digging in. We're already doing performance matters assessments and digging into content and whatnot. I was very impressed. So that was terrific. Good first couple of days. And I think at this point, 4 down, 176 to go. Do you have a couple of other things that we're going to? Yeah, okay, so part of convocation, we had our vendor fair, and I think, Sarah, remind me, do we have 18 different community partners who asked if they could come and present to our teachers and give information for them and support in different ways. Each of them provided some kind of a raffle prize as well. And then these are some pictures from convocation. You can see our different staff members who have been working with the district and met milestones of one kind or another last year, right? 15, 20, et cetera, years. We had them up there. I think that's Stan. Is that Stan speaking to us? Yeah. There, and Amy Bonney was our keynote speaker, our police chief, who's one of our distinguished alumni from Prescott Unified. And then there's a picture of some pens there. I'm not sure why. In addition to that, Stan, do you want to tell us about this really quick?
Yeah, so another coin recipient, Victoria Ellis. She does a number of things for our grants program, and that whole staff is tremendous, as you know. But Marty Reed submitted 2 requests prior to her departure, so this is one of the 2 that would be passing out. So she was floored. Honestly, I had just sent an email to her, and not 20 minutes later, I was in the office, and she thought she was in trouble for some reason, but she obviously wasn't. So we took a curve and presented her with the coin, so she was pretty
I kind of like
ecstatic.
that idea of sending a board member, though, when somebody's in trouble. We could kind of get that going.
That was neat.
Super, thank you for that. I think that's it from me.
All right, great. All right, governing board members, current events, Andy?
I'm still waiting to schedule with Adam to visit. Usually I go once a month and try to just catch up with them. But I had my first meeting today with Maya Caldwell for ESS, and they're extremely happy with their new location right across the way here, which is great for them. I think it gives them a really professional looking space. It's not
nice.
down an alley somewhere and in a portable building, which I think is great for that program. They feel more integrated with the other departments, more involved with DAT, and just walking in the office, the amount of new staff in there is quite a challenge. I mean, they have all brand new staff for the most part, except for one person, I think. So that was really interesting to see. And I think for Maya, the biggest challenge, she says, is just building trust with her people. And so she's working on that and trying to develop that as we're going forward. So it was a really good first meeting. We're going to do our monthly meetings together, and I'm looking forward to that. So that's about all I have. I went to the one opening of the new student or the new teacher orientation, and then convocation was great. So thank you.
Thanks. Linda?
Well, I attended every day of the new teacher in service, and we had a power outage, but it was pretty well put together, Kelsey. And the convocation was a lot of fun. Looking forward to a new school year and some really great things being done.
Cara?
I have nothing.
You've been busy.
I had the opportunity to go, this is not just our district, but the entire area. I went out to the Findlay backpack extravaganza day put on by the Angel Firefighter Foundation. And I was there for the whole afternoon, and I found it was so heartwarming to see. I think we gave about 1,700 backpacks away full of supplies for kids in the whole area, Chino, Humboldt, and Prescott. And it just reminds me of how generous our community can be, and just to see the smiles on the faces of parents and kids getting a whole backpack full of supplies ready to go the first day of school, so they would feel welcome and at home and part of their little school community. So it was pretty wonderful just to say hello to everybody coming in. Didn't matter what district, it was just welcome back.
Super cool.
That's a great deal. Thanks. I did attend first day, a number of first day events, to include the Woohoo Boohoo table at Lincoln. So we have a kindergarten attending at Lincoln, and I was a woohoo. I don't know. I wasn't. We were not crying, and he wasn't either. So it was pretty great. He's doing well. It helps his older brothers there too. But, and then, if you don't know, Dancing for the Stars is going on, and I think we got Rachel Sardi. She works in our district, so she's representing our schools. But we actually utilized the high school here a little while ago for a cameo, so thanks for opening that up. I did go down to the sports fields and saw all the different teams practicing, and it was just so powerful. Everybody's excited, and it's a new year, and we got to hear the early warning lightning alarm go off, and that is very effective. And the football team vacated very fast. So, as did I, because it was very scary.
And Stan, I might mention, as far as teams being there on the football field, we had at least 2 teams from the Valley, football teams from other high schools come up and use our facilities, rent that and whatnot. And they were, they'd get up in the morning and say, it's only 92 degrees here. And I'm like, yeah, well, okay. That turns your crank, that's great. But we were able to facilitate that for them, so they were in a little bit safer environment in terms of weather and temperature and whatnot to prepare for their seasons, plus bring in some cash flow for the athletic department. So it was a nice thing. And having the field be the turf field now rather than grass, you can have as many people go on it all day long as you want. Before, with situations like that, we always had to really manage who was on the field when, because you'd get down to the dirt pretty quick. That grass would wear out with too many bodies on it, but it's so nice to have that.
And I attended a little bit of the meeting for the girls' flag football team. If you don't know, we have first year flag football, and it's an exciting sport that just started in the state of Arizona last year. And I'll tell you, all of our soccer and track girls are coming out, and we're going to have a pretty powerful team, it looks like, just judged off the names that we're seeing. So, and then just so you're all aware, we will be selecting the representatives for the school board here in the upcoming weeks. So we should have the student representatives identified by next month,
before
right?
our
They
next
should be
board
in here.
meeting. Yep.
So, great. All right.
Can I add one more thing? I forgot about this. I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Audis and the high school for the band camp that they did this year, bringing in local schools to participate in band. Just seeing that program come back from where it has been. When my daughter was in the band, they had 130 kids, I think, in the band, and I think last year we had maybe 40.
Yeah, ish.
So he's really building something there, and I think it's commendable what he's doing.
Yeah, COVID hit all of our performing arts, well, across the region, across the world, really, very hard, and our numbers were down, and then we had some staff turnover from a very popular long-term director there, and some interim things that didn't go as well as we'd hoped. But you're exactly right. Dr. Audis has brought some great stability. And that's a good example of the Keystone program working for us. He's an experienced band director, has his doctorate, but doesn't have his Arizona teacher certificate yet. Taught at charter schools before where that's not necessary, and so he's going through the Keystone program to get fully certified with us. So it's not, we're pulling people out of the line at Safeway and saying, hey, you want to teach? It's quality people with a lot of experience in some cases, but they need the finishing touch to be able to teach in a public school in Arizona.
So, item 7B, community comments shared with the governing board. Does anybody have any community comments? Okay. Moving on to item 8, action items, the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to poll or highlight?
do we pull or discuss? I have a
You can do
question
either.
about one item.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
there.
Which item is that, Andy?
It's the IGA
With-
for the SROs.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I don't know the number.
Near
That's
the end.
86 and 7 maybe?
A6 and A7. So one for the high school and one for Mile High.
And a question, I guess, I don't know if we need to pull it, just,
We can,
can ask.
we can certainly discuss it, yeah, and then if
Okay.
anybody wants to pull it and vote on it separately, you can, or you
Okay.
can, if you feel like your questions have been answered and you're confident in how you
my-
want to vote on it, that's
my
great too.
question is, and I thought I saw this in a communication, was
Uh-huh.
that Chino Valley and Humboldt do not pay anything for their SROs on campus, but
correct.
we pay 75% of the cost for ours. And I know you've been working on that.
Uh-huh.
I'm curious to know what the rationale behind that was,
Yeah,
why
good
the city of Prescott is charging us for that when other districts are not being charged, and if you have an update on progress.
Sure, yeah, I do, absolutely. To clarify, neither Chino Valley nor Humboldt School District are paying anything out of their M&O funds for that. Chino Valley is actually not paying anything at all. The town of Chino Valley pays the entire amount for the SRO being posted in the school. But in the case of Humboldt, they've got a couple of different SROs, and they're paying for half of that from a grant, statewide grant that they got. We've got a grant as well that pays for one of ours, and then the town pays the other 50%. You're exactly right. In our case, we've got two SROs as well. This IGA was IGA, for folks in the audience, is an intergovernmental agreement, and an SRO is a student resource officer or a Prescott Police Department officer who's stationed at our schools. We should probably use fewer acronyms, or at least explain what they are before we launch into using them. I apologize for that. At any rate, we've had an SRO at Prescott High School for about 20 years, maybe a little bit more than that. And this is the agreement that we've had year after year after year, and we haven't had a superintendent who questioned it and said, well, are you sure? Since that time, both Humboldt and Chino have added, and their town councils, and both the other towns instead of cities, have chosen to step up at a different rate than our city council had. But you're exactly right, Andy. I've reported to the board that I'm talking with our city manager and our police chief about that, and I've already met individually with 2 of the 7 city council persons. Only one of them has declined to meet with me. The other 6 have said, yeah, I'd be happy to hear more about that. Tonight, we're asking, it's just on the consent agenda here, we're asking to roll with what we've got. The IGA, the Intergovernmental Agreement, goes over the course of the school year, and
Yeah.
the one we had most recently in place expired on May 25th of this year, so we need a new one in place. Actually, without an IGA, they've been fantastic. They've sent the police officers to our schools the first few days on the assumption that their city, I think maybe today, actually, they voted on it. And I haven't heard the outcome, but I'm assuming if it had gone sideways, I would have heard an outcome. Linda, do you know? It looks like
I
you're.
don't know.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't get.
I saw you nodding. You knew it was up for a vote today on the city council side. And then on our side, we're hopeful that you will approve it under the terms that it has been. But I'm getting ahead of this next year.
Okay.
9 months from now, we should be talking about renegotiating this and having it in a different way. The regional standard is 0% paid by the school district and 50% paid by another school district, all out of state funds. I'd like to, the average there, of course, you can do the math in your head, is 25%. I'm proposing to our city council that they pay 50 and we pay 50. And since we've got a grant from the state as well, we could pay a substantial amount of that, all of that, in fact, out of statewide grants, and then the city would pick up more. I don't want to impact the police department's budget directly, so I'm asking them to think globally rather than pull that all out of Amy Bonney's budget. And we'll see what they have to say about that. The reaction I've had so far has been very favorable, but I don't know if it's yeah, I like you, Clark, okay, that sounds good, or if it's really, yeah, I'll vote for that when the time comes to take an additional $83,000 of financial burden on the city and off of the school district. I've pointed out to them that I know from having been on the city council, there's not a lot of extra money floating around the city either.
Yeah.
They play things pretty close to the bone. But it is true that their budget is nearly 10 times our size. So $83,000 has a different kind of an impact on their budget than it does on ours. It makes a real difference in what we can pay teachers, for instance.
And yeah, and I think that's my big concern. If there's a way to help cover this with grant money that I know we're receiving for the armed officers on campus.
Right, yeah.
You know, I think overall keeping an SRO is the positive thing to do, and this is, you know, no issues with this IGA.
Sure.
But I sure hope that we can move toward a better arrangement for our district.
Yeah, I think the other towns and our city as well realize it's very mutually beneficial. Certainly, it's helpful to us to have that kind of positive interaction between a police department
Right.
officer and our students, and those officers, especially at the high school, teach units in our government classes, et cetera. There's so many positive things about that. One of our former SROs is back teaching a career and technical education class for us, Officer Wolf, who's now retired. So there's just been so many great connections in addition to what most people would go to, which is he's there in case, you know, the unthinkable, somebody comes and attacks the school. Of course, that's on everybody's mind, but there's so many positives in the meantime, just deterring low-level things that students or visitors might, think of. But if a police officer's there, they don't think of that as well. And I will tell you as well, the city is aware of this. There was you probably remember, at the county fair last year, there were some juveniles that kind of got into it with each other. They weren't from Prescott, but you know, they were from the county, and they were at the county fair, and there was actually a shot fired, and it wasn't clear who had done that. And the police was investigating, didn't have information. The information came to our student resource officer at Mile High Middle School from one of the students who wasn't involved but had knowledge of it. Let Officer Levin know. Officer Levin let the detectives know, and they made an arrest, and that person's in jail now because we have a student resource officer in our schools. Had nothing to do with our schools, though. So there's so many benefits to the city and to us. I'll stop talking about it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other items we want to discuss at all on the consent agenda? Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Moving on to item 8B, study and voting session. Do we have any calls to the public? Okay. Then we will move on to item 8B1, consider approving students recommended for early entrance into kindergarten for the 2024-25 school year. Kelsey.
So every year we have a group who looks at coming to kindergarten a little bit early. And those are students who turn 5 after that September 1st cutoff date. And it has to be within September 1st to January. That's the range. And so we do a screening on them called the Brigant screening, which gives us information about academic, motor skill, social skill to see whether they are ready. This year we had 12 in total who applied. We ended up accepting 8 of them who were ready for kindergarten. 3 who just weren't quite ready. They needed another year of preschool, and then 1 who just did not complete the process altogether. So overall, we've got a pretty good group of early entrance kiddos.
Does anybody have questions for Kelsey? One question that I did ask as we were kind of looking at the agenda was what amount out of these do you see year to year, I mean, give a percentage of children that do receive the early entrance, how many of them stay back, or what do we see in that regards?
You're asking how many repeat kindergarten?
Repeat kindergarten, or even down the road if you track that within the district? Yeah.
So I'm taking this over from Marty. This is not something that I have tracked, that I have that data too on the top of my head. I can tell you as a principal at a K-4 school, I don't know if we ever had an early entrance that we did not, or that we retained, that we held back. I think they're pretty successful. We make sure that that is the case. I could pull some numbers for you and see what I can find. I can go back through some information and see what I can get.
Only if it's different, than what you think, for sure.
My experience is go ahead.
Just to say, it's just on my experience.
Yeah, I don't know that we've got data on that we've tracked because it's super rare. It's not something that, we got to take a look at this. It's very rare among the kindergarten population in general, really any of the grade levels to hold a student back. We do that occasionally. And I would, if I had to guess, without the data in front of me, it's probably right around the same rate as, occasionally we'll have a kiddo, but right around the same rate as the general population. So we do some pretty good screening to begin with. And parents, of course, are supportive, and they're in a situation where they specifically asked for that. So, yeah, it's not been something that has come back to bite us. it's a legitimate concern on a couple of levels, Stan, because not only is that not necessarily positive for the student in some respects, although it's positive in other respects, if that were to happen and a student does kindergarten a second time, the total amount of dollars that we get from the state to have them do kindergarten again is zero, right? We get 50% of typical funding for a kindergartner to begin with. If they do it a second time, there's zero. So it's something we look at carefully. We don't want to put a family in that situation, and we don't want to drain resources from the rest of the students in the district by doing something that doesn't benefit everybody.
Sounds like a good screening process then. Good.
It's worked pretty well so far.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kelsey, oh, excuse me.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
didn't have anything.
What is the criteria? Why do the parents want their 5-year-old to come to pre-K or what? You know, are
That is-
they advanced?
It's a great question.
In some cases, yes. In some cases, students are they're bored in a preschool setting, they're socially and academically ready. We do see in other cases where they're just out of daycare options or they can't work with preschool schedules. So we see a variety of things entering it. But that is part of the process, is for parents to let us know kind of what are your reasonings for wanting early entrance, what are we looking at? So we really get a full picture of where those kids are coming from.
Yeah, developmentally,
Yeah.
sometimes kids are not ready for that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes they really do benefit from one more year in a preschool setting. And-
Sometimes they're coming from California too, very, very recent arrivals to Prescott, where the cutoff date is the end of December.
Right,
Correct.
right.
So they automatically assume that their 5-year-old, whose birthday is in October, will start kindergarten. And they get here and find out
Absolutely
that's
right.
not the case, so
Yes.
they automatically ask to, can we look at this
Yeah.
particular child individually and see? So
Yeah, really well said. The cutoff date in Arizona is September. It's earlier than some other places. 2 or 3 of the kiddos we're looking at here missed that cutoff by just a couple of weeks. So we look even more carefully at them. Yeah. One of the students, in fact, the one I think we
Yeah.
added last minute, missed the cutoff 3 days?
3 days.
Yeah, 72 hours. So we look very carefully at that and say, they're almost there. If they'd been born 72 hours early, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. What does that look like? So.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I'll consider a motion to approve student recommended for early entrance into kindergarten for the 2024-25 school year.
I will make that motion.
We have a motion, a second.
Second.
Motion is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion, all right, that passes. We'll move on to item 8B2. Consider approving an IGA for grant management services between PUSD and Yavapai County through the Yavapai County School Superintendent.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Clark.
Yeah, super, thank you. You might be asking yourself, we've got a grants department, and from what you understand, and you're right, it's a terrific grants department. Why are we relying on Yavapai County for this at all? The reason is because the Department of Education makes us do this. This is for one part of one grant. It's Title III funds that help in a small way, just a few $1,000s to help supplement the money that we spend educating our English language learners. And because the amount is under $10,000, we're not allowed to, by ADE rules for this particular grant, not allowed to manage it directly ourselves. It has to be managed initially through the county superintendent's office and then come to us. So it's just kind of a funky, quirky thing with the way the paperwork works. It's not our choice, but if we want to have the, whatever it is, $6,000 or something that helps those kids, that's the way that it has to go through. So we need to come to you to approve an intergovernmental agreement to have them provide that service for us.
Any questions about that? Okay, then I'll take a motion to approve the IGA for grant management services between PUSD and Yavapai County through the Yavapai County School Superintendent's Office.
So moved.
A motion of a second?
Second.
Motion is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Item 8B3, consider changing the date of the November 2024 PUSD Governing Board regular study and voting session meeting from Tuesday, November 5th to Wednesday, November 6th, 2024.
Okay. And this is a request that came directly from the board, I think from our most recent meeting. There you
Yes.
go.
Yeah, last
And
month.
you asked for this to be on the agenda. We'd already kind of talked around this, so I think you know where we're at, but just for the public's information. We typically hold our board meetings on the evening of the first Tuesday of the month. In November, that happens to be Election Day, and there'll be multiple people involved in this meeting and members of the public who will have interest in both things. So rather than intentionally create that conflict scheduling-wise, we thought, what if we do it the next day? That's what the board has asked for, so we've got it on the agenda for you.
Any discussion about that? All right. I'll take a motion to change the date of the November 24 PUSD Governing Board Regular Study and Voting Session meeting from Tuesday, November 5th, 2024 to Wednesday, November 6th, 2024.
So moved.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes. Item 8B4, consider approving the School Facilities Division's terms and conditions for acceptance of monies from the Building Renewal Grant Fund for PUSD school sites. Mr. Moore?
Just another HVAC, another month. You know, I actually counted because it seems like we bring a whole bunch of these, and we haven't even put a dent in our fleet. I think we've replaced 4% of our fleet in the last 12 months. So we're just going to continue to bring, and we'll have another 3, I think, for next month's governing board meeting.
That's great. It's like every other week we're getting them.
Brian, the board's
Every-
super
every
familiar
day
with
they're
this. We might have members of the public who aren't, most people know what HVAC stands for, but if you can help us with that acronym first of all, and then exactly what's going
I
on
have no
here.
idea what HVAC stands for.
Heating, ventilation, and
Heating,
air
air-
conditioning units. These are massive units
I
that
didn't even
cost
know it.
thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, and we
Yeah.
have the opportunity to apply to the state for them to replace defunct equipment. But it's a weird system. We have to wait until something totally dies. There's no such thing as preventive maintenance as far as the school funding is concerned. So once they die, and we can confirm that they died, then we can apply to the state, and the state says yes, we have to go to the board, and they say yes on that, and then once they tell us yes on our end, we have to come back to the board and accept what I think we're talking about here, terms and conditions that the state is putting on that money for us to use it. And it's a real quick ministerial thing that our board is very, very familiar with, does all the time, but members of the public may not be as familiar, so
Thank you for expounding on that.
you bet, you bet.
So this one's Mile High, the other one, the next one will be what?
We have,
Whoever goes out first?
yeah, we already have one
Yeah,
down in
great
Granite.
question.
So there's another 7.5 ton that I've already put in for. This one specifically cooled and heated the kitchen area, the economic classroom over at Mile High. And so we'll just keep on plugging away.
And we've talked about this before, our buildings average 75 years old, so it's no surprise that we've got equipment that fails periodically, and
Our HVACs on average are 22 years old, and they usually break about after 15. So
And-
we've actually done a lot of good preventative maintenance and
Yeah.
fixing. It's just not preventative, proactive buying of HVACs because we got to wait till it breaks.
And unless anybody be thinking otherwise, this is not a simple system. It is enormously complex. The roof in Abayajud over the library was caving in, as you recall, and it was touch and go whether we were going to get that money at all for this school year. Brian is a master at this. He has totally figured out the system. He's made good relationships with the people down at the state, and the reason it goes as smoothly as it does for us is sitting right there in that chair. And not everybody has a Brian Moore. So it's not a good system at all. But we work within it and do the best we can.
Thanks for expounding on that too.
You bet. It's important. People need to know. It's Byzantine, and it's backwards, and it's outdated, and it's archaic, it's poorly funded, and you've figured it out for the benefit of our kids, and I appreciate it.
They built some pretty good buildings back when Roosevelt was doing the public works program, right? Yes, he was. Yeah. Still working. Well done. All right, any more discussion? All right, I will take a motion to approve the School Facilities Division's terms and conditions for acceptance of monies for the Building Renewal Grant Fund for PUSD school sites. Have a motion?
I will make that motion.
Okay, motion is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 8B5, consider approving the fiscal year 2025 capital plan for the School Facilities Oversight Board. Mr. Moore?
All right, a little background on this for you all and the public. This essentially is just it's a report we have to do every year. They ask about developments when it comes to the area, number of kids coming from our neighboring districts, ultimately to see whether Prescott Unified needs to be on their radar for a new facility. It asks for projected ADM 15 years out. I don't know how you do that accurately, but we budget flat enrollment, and we're really happy if that comes true. So this is a report. It's due by September 1st. If we don't do it, then we're not eligible for any school facilities board monies, which means no more HVACs. So we need to do this, and thank you for voting on it. And essentially, it's just it indicates we're not a growing district. And while we would love new facilities, it's not something that's going to come from the state because we're not busting from the seams and have kids falling out of windows.
Great. Great. Any questions? All right. I'll take a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 capital plan for the School Facilities Oversight Board.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Motion seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Item C, 8C, information discussion items. Item 8C1, school board summary budget reports. Mr. Moore.
Usually as presented, but this is the first one, so you're not going to see a lot of expenditures or encumbrance. Well, actually, encumbrances, yes. If you look at our M&O, essentially what's encumbered, I don't have the report in front of me, but the $20 million, it's all payroll and benefits and salaries. And so as we spend the money, then those encumbrances will unencumbered and become expenses. We did add a column when it comes to the description. And so, Cara, if you had a chance to look at that, if that's acceptable to you, really just saying if they're restricted. If it's not, it's restricted and we can spend them on what we deem necessary, then I just put on unrestricted. But restricted, then I put the areas in which the monies need to be spent. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. And give any more suggestions if this report can be tweaked to better suit your needs.
All right.
As presented.
All right, thank you. Item 8C2, review the proposed changes of the governing board policy IJNDB, use of technology resources. In instruction, I just want to say, Mr. Binder, before we go on this is a first reading, as is the next item. So we can ask questions, but realize we'll take this back. We can look at the information. If you have any questions, ask Andy. He'll get the information to you, so we're prepared for the second read at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, Andy.
We'll have a whole month to look over it, ask questions, ponder, whatever.
Exactly. So, yeah, just as a reminder, obviously all board policies are the decision of the board, but we also take some guidance and suggestions from the Arizona School Board Association's model policy program. And so one of the things that they shared with us and that we looked over and feel is a really strong idea is to have an AI policy and some procedures behind that. The verbiage in the proposed policy essentially just says we need to be proactive as a district, making sure that we're monitoring what's happening with AI, that our sites are familiar with it, putting some procedures in place. And so we got our administration together and started working on that, and also are looking at what we need to do to continue to monitor that. I believe everyone has this in front of them, which is kind of the first kind of procedures that we're putting in place in terms of what the procedures will be at the sites. But again, the policy itself is just kind of talking about making sure we're being proactive.
The board policy references that you'll be voting on next time around references that we've got procedures in place and we should follow them. Here's our first draft, our first stab, our skeleton of procedures for generative AI use, artificial intelligence, for those of you who are thinking it's the great 2011 Steven Spielberg movie. It's not. We're talking about the use of generative artificial intelligence on computers, that kind of software by students. And basically trying to head off plagiarism, but then also teach students to use this tool.
We know that AI is going to be changing, and we need to be staying active with it, so that the actual board policy doesn't address these particular things. It just says we need to continue to monitor and have systems in place to make sure that we're addressing these things.
I just have one curiosity. It
Yep.
says, it says, not that, it says that as long as you credit or properly cite, it's okay. So is there like a citation that the kids would use if they used artificial intelligence? Like, is there like a given citation, or do we have one on file? Do we know what that citation would look like?
Yeah, to clarify, the policy does not say as long as you cite, it's okay. It says there's 3 different scenarios that teachers will direct. The
Oh, I
default
was
is
just
you may
reading
not
right
use it at
here.
all. Yeah, you're looking down at the academic dishonesty piece.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we teach kids at every school, at every level. Anytime that you're using somebody else's work, whether it's AI or something that Carl Woods wrote 10 years ago, or Einstein's, whatever it is, if it's not well known in the public domain, you're gonna cite it as somebody else's work. So
Oh, so
that'll be
you're
the
not
case with
saying
AI
that
as
you
well.
can just cite, I used AI, and it'll be
Yeah,
okay?
well, absolutely. So if we're looking at the green.
I'll have to look at the top.
Yeah, if we're looking at the green or the
yellow.
yellow, and the teacher has given permission and direction to use generative artificial intelligence to complete an assignment, then the student would cite which of the websites that they went to, which of the software pieces that they did, and to
So there
create
was
what they created.
I was just
Mhm.
wondering if there was like a standard
Sure there is, or
citation,
will be soon, yeah.
notation.
Yeah, I'm sure that
Nowadays.
there is one out there.
Okay.
Can I just ask who's responsible for writing this?
So that was actually,
Should say right.
We didn't cite it.
This is
Yeah,
based on
no,
the
but-
Deer Valley School District. There's multiple school districts that are larger than us that got ahead of this before us, and we looked at a lot of different models, right? And had a committee involving Kelsey, myself, and our secondary principals, and rather than say, let's invent a wheel, what shape should it be? What should a wheel do? We looked at what was out there, we said, this is pretty solid. Made a couple little tweaks, contacted Deer Valley, Cara, and asked, may we do this? It actually didn't get printed on this piece, but on our website, it credits Deer Valley. Is it on the back? There it is, good. Yeah, we're on to the second page. Thank you for that. On the back, it credits Deer Valley School District.
I didn't
as-
see that before I asked the question.
I didn't even know there was a back side, so you're ahead of me.
Here we go.
Anyhow, that's where we got it from. Again, we made some tweaks to match how we want this to roll out in our school district. And the idea is we've got a skeletal framework for how to use this. It matches pretty well what Yavapai College does, as well as it turns out. So a lot of kids articulate from us to them, and/or are currently taking classes through both, right? We've got all our dual enrollment and our early college classes, so it matches pretty well with kind of the standard that's out there right now. And I'm sure we're going to learn a bunch over the next couple of years and add to this skeletal framework.
Are we incorporating this into professional development days? So that our teachers, I missed that one that you had I was at a different training.
Yes.
So
Go ahead.
how is that going to be monitored?
Yeah, we really saw this coming out more last school year. In our Choose Your Own PD Day, which was in February, we did have a couple of presentations on how to use it. And actually, that was a staff member from Yavapai College who came in and shared a little bit about how they're using it. They're probably a little more involved with AI, and they're using it more at the college level than we would be in a K-12 setting. But yes, we will continue to offer professional development. First of all, on what it is, because our kids tend to know that a lot quicker than the adults and the teachers. So doing that, but then how do we use this as a tool within the classroom? Not just something that we're trying to monitor to make sure that kids aren't using plagiarism, but how do we use it as a tool?
Any other questions? All right, item 8C3, review the proposed changes to ASBA Policy Advisory 792-797 and 799-800. Mr. Binder again.
yeah. So again, this is just a first read, so I would certainly recommend you take some time to scan through it. I do want to point out, as you're going through them, though, the reason that 798 is not listed here is, as I said before, these are recommendations from the policy or the board, no, the ASBA model policy program, and JFB, which is number 798, is not what our current policy is. So the recommendations that they're making doesn't apply. Our policy is separate from that. So, but the rest, as you scan through, if you look, they provide a really nice summary at the beginning of what each one's about, and I would recommend you just kind of scan through that, and I think you'll get a general sense. Most of them, almost entirely, are about changing up some verbiage to reflect current legislation.
Who generates the ones we're going to go over, ASBA or you?
ASBA. ASBA is got a team of lawyers and a whole team that is reviewing these policies, and when they see a change in the legislation, they say, okay, that affects these certain policies, so we better let our cooperating schools know that there's a change in the law, so they should, if they're following this policy, they should know that and change that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, moving on to item 8C4, request for future agenda items. Does anybody have any? I have one. Just what our enrollment numbers are and what we're sitting at,
Yeah,
and then classroom sizes. You know, any concerns that we have. I know we kind of talked, and it looks really good, but just for the public's knowledge. What we're
Yeah,
setting up.
I've got some general information on that right now if you're interested. And that we can certainly make a formal presentation as
Yeah.
well, or both.
Yeah, let's do it now and then
Okay.
we'll do it next month.
Yeah, so we finished the year last year at about 3950. We're about 3960 today. How many of those kids are kids who enrolled and are not in seats yet? We'll have that information you probably know by state law. We do a kind of an audit of our attendance after the 10th day of school, and anybody who hasn't shown up and hasn't contacted us to say, hey, we're actually caught in Georgia at the airport, whatever. We drop them from our rolls at that point. I know as of this morning we had about 20 people in line to enroll at the high school and a handful at our other schools as well. So it'll go up from about 3950 and down from about 3950 based on those. But it looks like Brian's guess of having flat enrollment again, in spite of fewer kids in Prescott all the time and more charter schools all the time, was a pretty good guess.
We don't guess.
Well,
We
okay,
actually-
there you go. A good estimate, a good projection. Was an excellent projection.
Thank
Let's
you.
put it that way. Yeah, we don't guess things. With taxpayer money, we don't guess. So we're about where we were. I can tell you a couple of trends that we've seen. We're up. I think I reported to you in my board report. We're up in kindergarten, which is excellent. We've seen a downward trend in kindergarten enrollment the last 2 or 3 years in a row. That's been very concerning, right? There's fewer kids in town, there's fewer kids in kindergarten, and we're like, what's that mean? Several years from now, we're going to be cutting teachers and cutting programs as we have fewer kids, but we're up. As of this morning, I want to say we were up 17 kindergarten students over the end of last year. And kindergarten is one, those of you who've taught in schools know, it tends to grow over the course of the year. The other's kind of up and down, right? You're going to have about as many 11th graders in May as you have 11th graders today. But you'll have more kindergarten students for sure. We have families that move from California, and in a week and a half, they're going to say, we better start getting ready for school. And they'll show up, and we'll say, we've been going for a month. And they'll say, oh. And we'll have them, and et cetera. Discovery Gardens is up above their typical start. They usually start about 175. They had 200 enrolled as of this morning, so they're up, which is terrific. And kindergarten's up, and the high school is up. Our other elementary school grade levels, well, really, 1st through 8th are down a little bit from last year, but it's the overall balance is almost exactly what it was, is what we're seeing early on. Now, again, we'll have firmer figures here after 6 more school days. But
3950, that's actual people, right? 1, 2.
yes, yeah.
That's just what I wanted to ask.
Well, that's what the enrollment says online, and some of those people
Okay.
have not shown up and won't show up, and there's several who will show up that we know of right now. We've got in line. We just haven't been able to get to them because there's so many who want to come to the high school. The high school's got over 1,500 kids enrolled, which is as big as it's been for years and years. So you were asking about class sizes. Great question. I'll address that real briefly as well. You probably remember we had some concerns about class sizes at Abaya Judd. That's worked out just exactly as we had hoped. We were hopeful that 1st grade wouldn't be above 27, and it's coming in at 25. That's exactly what we shoot for. We were hoping that 4th grade wouldn't come in above 30. They're all at 30. There's one at 29. It's just ideal. So that's good. The place where we had the most concern early. What we had squeezed down to with your budget that you approved, 3 kindergartens planned for Abaya Judd, but we have so many kindergarten kids come in, about 3 weeks ago, made the decision we need to have 4. And it's worked out really well. We've got low-ish class sizes there, but we would have tremendously high class sizes, knowing that growth will come if we'd started with 3. So that's good news. More kids than we thought. So we expanded like we do. And the high school is really where I have my biggest concerns right now with, but we always deal with that relatively simply with overloads. If there's too many kids in biology, we say, great, let's have another biology section. Hey, biology teacher, Mrs. Smith, would you take what should have been your prep hour and teach a biology class and do your prep after school instead? And if Mrs. Smith might say, are you kidding me? So then we ask Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones says, sure, I'd be happy to do that for an additional amount of money. I'll work more at night. So we always, through overloads, are able to take care of class size at the high school and get it right where we want to as far as targets.
So
We've been very fortunate.
Kindergarten class at AJ is the only one we've had to make an additional.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I
Everything
thought,
else
just
we
make sure.
projected just
Right.
right. And I'm really glad that we did not jump the gun on another 4th grade teacher, another 1st grade teacher. We had some good parent input about that, and we talked about that a bunch. And based on our experience, said let's hold off, and I'm really glad we did. That has saved money that we can put into teacher salaries this year,
What
into
about our
programs, into lower
first
class sizes
grades?
elsewhere.
District-wide, are they all sitting at about 25?
They're not, no, they're
Okay,
lower,
so
and that's
we
one of
do
the
have some room,
reasons.
okay.
Yeah, great question. That's one of the reasons we were so confident in going with the 3 sections of 1st grade at Abaya Judd is there's room at the other schools. So when somebody comes to us from Chino Valley or Sacramento or wherever and says, hey, I'd like to come and be in 1st grade at Abaya Judd, we say, we're a little tight, but we've got room at Taylor Hicks, we've got room at Lincoln. So
Could you also add the early college numbers and dual enrollment too? Just
You bet.
kind of so everybody sees that.
yeah, early college, I know off the top of my head, we capped it at 36 and we have
Oh, it
36.
is?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Remember, for financial reasons, that costs us a bunch of money that we feel it's worth the sacrifice, but
That's awesome.
we go much higher than that. We put even more money into it, and it takes away from the other kids who aren't in the early college program. So with the balance this year, 36, and it's full.
That's excellent.
Did we have more than that number of students who wanted to be in early college?
We have more applicants than that,
Yeah.
yeah, but I'd have to get with the high school and ask. My understanding was the number of quality, this kid is going to thrive. We know it's going to work well, applicants, and the spots that we had were pretty close.
Okay.
We did have to, I'm sure, have some kids that said, hey, I'd like to be in that as a junior, for instance, and we said, hold off till you're senior. We'll have room for you then.
Great.
I'm assuming we track what fields they're going into and taking classes, right? Or are they just taking liberal arts classes?
That's a great question. Generally speaking, they're taking general education classes. There's a
Okay.
couple of kids who might be able to fit into their schedule something that fits into where their career choice is. We don't track. It's very difficult for us to track what somebody does 3 years after they graduate, right, or 4
Yeah.
years or whatnot. They're not interested in filling out a survey for us and whatnot. But
The reason I ask that is so that we can anticipate adding more programs,
Sure.
for those that are very popular.
yeah, and those who are in the early college, which I think we were talking about, that's the Yavapai College's domain to say, okay, yep, there's more demand here, we're going to add classes. But you're exactly right, Linda, as we look at our CTE programs, for instance, career and technical education programs, et cetera, seeing where the demand is helps us respond to that demand. You're exactly right.
Great. All right, so just a reminder, our next regular study and voting session meeting is September 10th, 5 o'clock right here. There's some other dates that are listed here. I'll let everybody look at those. What you don't see right now is Taylor Hicks back to school, and we'll get that out. I think we're kind of settling on a date. And then
I
also.
think they've chosen August 15th.
August 15th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or 16th.
I think it was Thursday the 15th is what
15th? Okay.
going for. Yeah.
And then also grades for Abaya Judd, 2nd and 4th, right, and kindergarten? That's
Also
another
that
date.
same evening, as it turns out.
Okay, also the
Just
15th.
later, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Abaya Judd and Taylor Hicks are doing theirs just about at the same time. The high school one extends a little longer, so the relatively few families that have kids in elementary school and high school and that want to get to both, they should have an opportunity to do that.
Cool. All right, and then we have the board candidate forum at the Ruth Street Theater on August 28th at 5 o'clock. Full PD day, which we already talked about. on the 30th of August, and then Labor Day holiday. So no school. Are we doing Friday off? No, that is that Friday, right? Well done. Thank you. Extended vacation. Thanks, guys.
For families, it's a 4-day weekend.
All right, great. Then we're adjourned.